this is Seema Charani from KYMS Academy, and I welcome you back to this platform of learning and knowledge. Previous year question series of CAT 23 slot 1 is going on, and today we are going to discuss last RC. So let's get started and together we make it happen. An anonymous quote: dreams are the seeds of success, actions are the harvest. This quote says that your dreams are like seeds that have potential for growth, and taking action is like harvesting the results of those dreams. And without action, your dreams are simply ideas. So keep working hard and smartly towards your goal. So let's begin with today's RC. I'm going to read this RC paragraph by paragraph, and then obviously we are going to come down to the questions and solve them. For early post-colonial literature, the world of the novel was often the nation. Post-colonial novels were usually concerned with national questions. Sometimes the whole story of the novel was taken as an allegory of the nation, whether India or Tanzania. This was important for supporting anti-colonial nationalism, but could also be limiting land focus and inward looking. So after reading this paragraph, we can say that the topic of this paragraph is post-colonial literature. And here the author is saying that basically, जो novels हुआ करते थे post-colonial literature में, they were more focused towards the nation. मतलब वो particular country को ही focus करके चल रहे थे. Post-colonial novels were usually concerned with national questions, and they were more concerned about the questions pertaining to the nations. Sometimes the whole story of the novel was taken as an allegory of the nation, whether in India or Tanzania. इसका मतलब उनका जो main focus होता था, that was only related to one particular country. It can be India or Tanzania. And why this was important? Because this was important in order to support the idea of getting independence from the colonial power. So basically, उनका जो focus था on any one particular country, it was just to support the anti-colonial nationalism. It means they wanted to have the independence from the colonial power. But then, obviously, you can see the transition word is there, which is a change of tone, and this part is actually very, very important. तो अब हम यहाँ पर क्या बोल सकते हैं? That post-colonial literature, it could also be limiting land focus and inward looking. So obviously, if you are focusing only on one particular nation, so obviously it is going to be limiting. Land focus means only related to that particular country, and inward looking means we are simply talking about our own country. We are not even moving outside the domain of that particular country. I hope this paragraph is clear. So the main topic of this paragraph is post-colonial literature, and these are the certain things associated with this thing. My new book, Writing Ocean Worlds, explores another kind of world of the novel. So now this was the first kind of world of the novel, which was related to post-colonial literature, and this was the second kind of the world of the novel. And the name of that book was Writing Ocean World. Again, anything that is given after the colon is very, very important. It's must read, not the village or nation, but the Indian Ocean world. So now here the focus was not on one particular territory, village or nation, but it was about the Indian Ocean world. It means if it is going to be narrow, it is going to be little comprehensive. The book describes a set of novels in which the Indian Ocean is at the center of the story. So now this book, in Writing Ocean Worlds, is basically the combination of the novels written by different writers, and Indian Ocean was the main setting. It focuses on the novelists Amitav Ghosh, Abdul Razak Gurnah, Lindsay Collin, and Joseph Conrad, who have centered the Indian Ocean world in the majority of their novels. It means these novelists, they gave more importance to Indian Ocean in their novels. Their work reveals a world that is outward looking. So now this is something which is very, very important. As you can see in this paragraph, we can see at the contrasting point here when they were focusing post-colonial literature, when they were focusing only on nation, it was inward looking. But here in the second kind of world of the novel, the basically here the focus is more on the Indian Ocean world, and that is outward looking. Okay, inward looking, outward looking. Outward looking means what? Full of movement. Full of movement means migration is taking place, border crossing. The people, they were crossing the border. They were not only confined to one particular territory, but now they were crossing the border as well. And it was more about the south south interconnection. Okay, so when I was reading this particular word, so there actually I was little, apprehensive about this term, क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था कि maybe some typo is there because south south, but here the author is trying to say that the connections were more intra. It means it was within south. South south interconnection means it was within south. Okay, they are all very different from colonially inclined Conrad to radically anti-capitalist scholar. Now अब ये बोल रहे हैं कि why they were different? They were different from the Conrad that who was more inclined towards colonialism, and the Colin who was basically against capitalism. But together draw on and shape a wider sense of Indian Ocean space through themes, images, metaphors, and language. So here the author is trying to say that many novelists were there who had different ideas, different stories, but then they were coming on the common platform. Why? Because they made a wider picture of Indian Ocean through the storytelling tools. Because beta, these are the storytelling tools. जब भी कोई story बोलता है, normally the authors, they make use of images, themes, metaphors, and language. So these were the authors, these were the novelists who were also using these storytelling tools in order to give the wider picture of Indian Ocean. This has the effect of remapping the world in the reader's mind as centered in the interconnected global south. So basically, whatever they wrote, it actually brought the change in how the readers, they perceive the world. Okay, I hope things are clear. So here we can say that the first paragraph talks about post-colonial literature. It was focusing more on the nation and it was inward looking. So it was a very narrow concept. In the second paragraph, we are talking about the writing ocean worlds, where various novelists, they shared their different thoughts and the ideas in that, but they were also common on one platform. And this particular essay or the novel was outward looking, and it talks about the migration as well. So this paragraph, it focused more on the connected culture of South. Third para. The Indian Ocean world is a term used to describe the very long-lasting connections among the coast of East Africa, the Arab coast, and South and East Asia. So basically, Indian Ocean world, it refers to the long-lasting connections between these all coastal regions. These connections were made possible by the geography of the Indian Ocean. And how these connections were made possible? Because of the nature and the geographical area of the Indian Ocean. For much of history, travel by sea was much easier than by land, which meant that port cities very far apart were often more easily connected to each other than to much closer inland cities. Now this sentence is very, very important because a comparison point is given over here. So now here the author is saying that historically traveling by sea was much easier than traveling over लैंड. क्यों? क्योंकि वहां पर अब ये मैटर नहीं करता था कि कितना दूर है, ये और ये मैटर भी नहीं करता था वो कितना पास है. कितना भी वो दूर हो, ऑब्वियसली दैट वाज मच इजियर बाय सी. Historical and archaeological evidence suggests that what we now call globalization first appeared in the Indian Ocean. Now, because of this evidence, we can say that globalization actually it first appeared in the Indian Ocean. Again, this point is very important. This is the interconnected oceanic world reference and produced by the rovers in my book. In my book here stands for writing ocean world. So all this interconnected culture of the South has been shown in this novel. I hope it's crystal clear. It's easy to read and understand. Okay. For their part, Ghosh, Gurnha, Colin, and even Conrad reference a different set of histories and geographies that the ones most commonly found in fiction in English. Beta, whenever there is comparison point, there is a high possibility that there might be a question on such sentences or maybe options are given. तो यहाँ पर हम comparison किस में draw कर रहे हैं? That whatever these novelists wrote, okay, I mean they had different set of theories and geographies, okay, which is actually different from the ones mostly commonly found in fiction in English, जो कि बहुत different थे, जो English में most commonly जो चीजें पाई जाती है उससे बहुत ज्यादा वो different थे. Now what are those commonly found things in English? And those commonly found ones are mostly centered in Europe or the US. So basically here we are talking about the West now. When the second paragraph and the third paragraph talks more about the South, but whatever common thing we found in fiction in English, basically they are mostly centered in Europe or the US. Assume a background of Christianity and whiteness and mention places like Paris and New York. तो सिंपली आपको यहाँ पे समझना है कि बेसिकली उनका जो मोस्ट कॉमन पॉइंट था वो क्या था? इट वाज अबाउट द वेस्ट. The novels in my book, again you can see the comparison point. The novels in my book means again the writing ocean world, highlight instead a largely Islamic space, feature characters of color and centralize the ports of Malindi, Mombasa, Aden, Java and Bombay. Okay, so what you need to understand over here is, so basically they were focusing more on west, and now this book it focuses more on south, and it only talks about the whiteness and it talks about the different colors. Okay, so this is the major difference. It is a densely imagined, richly sensory image of a southern cosmopolitan culture which provides for an enlarged sense of place in the world. Again the same thing, basically it is giving us the vivid and the clear picture of the interconnected culture of the South. So yet again and again author is focusing more on the South in the novel writing ocean world. Now the end of the passage, which is the last paragraph. This remapping is particularly powerful for the representation of Africa. Now, why this remapping is particularly powerful? Because how the Africa has been represented and how it is going to change the mindset of the reader. Okay, so this remapping is very, very powerful. In the fiction, sailors and travelers are not all European. So basically, where did we talk about fiction? Over here in English. So it was not only about the European. Africa as well as Indian and Arab characters are traders, nakodas, downship captains, runaways, villains, missionaries and activists. It means even the African and the Indian and Arab characters, they were performing all these activities. Okay, this doesn't mean that Indian Ocean Africa is romanticized. अब इसका मतलब ये जा रहा है कि what do you understand by romanticize over here? कि okay, we have talked about so many positive things about Africa, but it is not the only side. There is another side of Africa as well. मतलब हमेशा हम अफ्रीका को सिर्फ पॉजिटिव वे में नहीं देखते हैं. Maybe other side is also there. And what is that other side? Maybe the the disadvantageous side. Migration is often a matter of force. So there was forced migration. Okay, travel is portrayed as abandonment rather than adventure. So travel was being seen as abandonment rather than the adventure. It was not seen as fun. Freedoms are kept from women. Obviously, women were not given the freedoms, and slavery is life. What is the meaning of slavery is life? It was going towards the higher side. What it does mean is that the African part of the Indian Ocean work plays an active role in its long, rich history and before in that of the wider world. Beta, I think I am not able to see that particular line clearly. Okay, but what I can understand by reading this line is that basically Africa has been shown as a long-standing history in Indian Ocean. Okay, now Africa actually played a very, very important role. Okay, so this was the end of the passage. So now let us go to the questions and solve them one by one. All of the following claims contribute to the remapping discussed by the passage except. Now, as you can see, except question is given. So whenever we say except, it means 3 are going to be true and 1 is going to be false. So let us see about the true, और जो बचेगा वो हमारा except में चला जाएगा. So basically what does the author mean by saying remapping? Remapping का मतलब क्या था? That how we see the world, okay? I mean how the perception of the readers have been changed. Fine. So the global south as opposed to the global north was the first center of globalization. This was something that we actually studied in one of the paragraph. In fact, in the first paragraph only, जहाँ पर हमने बोला था, maybe the second paragraph, जहाँ पर हमने बोला था that actually the globalization is started in global south. Okay. So yes, this is something which is true as per the passage, and this cannot be my answer because I am looking for the except one, which is the false one. The world of early international trade and commerce was not the sole domain of white Europeans. So if I take you back to the last paragraph, here we studied that in the fiction, sailors and travelers are not all European. It means it was not only the sole domain of European, but African as well as the Indian and Arab characters were also there. So again, this can be inferred from the last paragraph. So again, this is true. Cosmopolitanism originated in the West and traveled to the East through globalization. So now if you heard me explaining the paragraph clearly, then obviously in the paragraph nowhere we talked about that cosmopolitanism originated in the West and traveled to the East. This is something we did not even come across in any of the paragraphs of the passage. So yes, this is going to be false. It means this is going to be the except one. But then we need to verify whether the fourth option is right or wrong, true or false as per the passage. Indian Ocean novels have gone beyond the specifics of national concerns to explore rich regional past. Indeed, this is something that we can infer because in the first paragraph, we talked about the post-colonial literature, which was inward-looking, which was focusing more on the nation. But Indian Ocean novels, they were outward-looking, they were going for the migration, and they also talked about the South-South interconnection. So this is something that we can infer from the paragraph or the passage. So again, this is true, and third is false, which is the except one. So the answer is 3. I hope things are clear. Question 2. Which one of the following statements is not true about migration in the Indian Ocean world? Beta, in the first question also, we talked about the except one. And in a way, this question also asks you about the except one. Okay. Not true means what? Again, false. It means we have to go for 3 true and 1 false. Okay. So basically the question is asking us about the migration in the Indian Ocean world. So did we come across the word migration? Exactly not, but we can infer it. How? See, here the author is saying that the writing ocean verse, it was outward looking, full of movement, border crossing. It means what? We are talking about the migration. Okay, so let us check the options. Geographical location rather than geographical proximity determine the choice of destination for migrants. Now, in one of the paragraphs, we said that traveling by sea, okay, was much easier than traveling over roads. So we were not bothering about the distance now, okay. So distance वहाँ पर matter नहीं करता था. So obviously this can be inferred by reading that particular line, that geographical location rather than geographical proximity. Areas कितने पास है वो matter नहीं करता है, भले ही वो बहुत दूर है, but वो हमारे लिए easy हो रहा था because of sea. So this is something that can be inferred, which is true, cannot be my answer because I have to go for the false one. The Indian Ocean world's migration networks were shaped by religious and commercial histories of the region. So again, this is something that we can infer, and this is given in the third or the fourth paragraph. So yes, this is something which is right. The Indian Ocean world's migration networks connected the global north with the global south. I think this was an easy elimination. Easy elimination in what sense? That it is going to be false because the entire passage talks about the south. It did not talk about the north. So obviously for that reason it cannot be it cannot be about migration in the Indian Ocean world, therefore it is going to be false, and I got my answer over here. Migration in the Indian Ocean world was an ambivalent experience. A bit of why an ambivalent experience? First of all, you need to know the meaning of ambivalent. Ambivalent here means something which is uncertain. Okay? And ambi always stands for, it's a root word, and ambi means both, it means many. And how we can infer this thing? Now, in the last statement, the author is saying that this does not mean that Indian Ocean Africa is romanticized. इसका मतलब उसका हम हमेशा से पॉजिटिव एस्पेक्ट ही नहीं देखेंगे, उसके कुछ नेगेटिव एस्पेक्ट भी थे. तो when positive and negative aspects both are there, and for that reason author has used this word ambivalence. So yes, this is something that I can infer from the last paragraph of the passage. So 1, 2 and 4, these are true and 3 is false. So I think it was the easiest question out of the 4. Question 3. On the basis of the nature of the relationship between the items in each pair below, choose the odd pair out. अब जनरली कैट इतने इजी क्वेश्चंस देता नहीं है, तो अभी मैंने आपको सेकंड क्वेश्चन के लिए बोला था दैट वाज द इजीएस्ट, बट आई थिंक इट इज आल्सो वन ऑफ द इजीएस्ट क्वेश्चंस, क्योंकि बहुत ही डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन था. सो नाउ लेट अस सी व्हिच इज द ऑड वन आउट. पोस्ट colonial novels border crossing. Post colonial novels, we talked about this thing in paragraph 1, and it was not about the border crossing because they were focusing only on one particular nation. So yes, this cannot be the answer. So I think it is odd pair out, but let me see whether all these are going according to the passage or not. Post-colonial novels, anti-colonial nationalism. Did we come across this word? Indeed, in the first paragraph, we came across this word. Here you can see this was important for supporting anti-colonial nationalism. So yes, this is correct. This is the right pair. Indian Ocean word and slavery. This we came across towards the end of the passage, and that too in the last paragraph, where we said that slavery was rife. Okay, so yes, again this is the right pair. So this is true and this is true. Indian Ocean novels outward looking, it is a direct pair which is given in paragraph 2. Again this is true. So what is the answer? Answer is going to be 1, which is odd, which is an odd pair. The last question and the trickiest one. Basically, this is a CR question. Okay. तो कभी भी जहां पे भी कोई सेंटेंस होता है, if true would weaken, if true would strengthen, basically these are the CR questions, and these are actually difficult to solve. तो अगर if you are reading any RC and out of the 4 questions, if one of the questions is based on RC and 3 you are able to solve, but then do not waste much of your time on solving such questions. अगर आपको easily आ रहे हैं, well and good, but अगर आपको easily नहीं आ रहे हैं, तो please do not waste your time, because such kind of questions, they require a lot of practice. So now here the authors ask if true. So if words like if true, if false are given, then we have to assume that whatever options are given, they are right. Okay, पर हमें assume करना है. अब no matter कोई word match कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा, हमें उसको assume करना है it is right, and then you have to go for the main claim of the पैसेज. और जो आपने क्लेम देखा है, अगर वो उसको सपोर्ट नहीं कर रहा है, इसका मतलब इट इज गोइंग टू वीकन इट. ऑलराइट, सो वी हैव टू सी इफ ट्रू would weaken the passage's claim about the relationship between mainstream English language fiction and Indian Ocean novels. तो बेसिकली इन दोनों के बीच में रिलेशन क्या था? इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज फिक्शन एंड इंडियन ओशन नोवेल्स. अब इसको हम देख लेते हैं. एक्सेप्ट. नाउ हियर अगेन ही आस्क यू द एक्सेप्ट वन. कितना टीडियस बना दिया उसने इस क्वेश्चन को. फर्स्ट थिंग इफ ट्रू वुड वीकन, देन अगेन द एक्सेप्ट वन. तो जस्ट फॉरगेट अबाउट द एक्सेप्ट वन. हम देख लेंगे दैट विच 3 ऑप्शंस आर गेटिंग वीकन. ओके, और जो वीक नहीं हो रहा है वो हमारा क्या हो जाएगा? आंसर. इट मींस यू हैव टू गो फॉर द ऑप्शन व्हिच इज एक्चुअली सपोर्टिंग द क्लेम ऑफ द ऑथर. ओके, so let's read. Most mainstream English language novels have historically privileged the Christian, white, male experience of travel and adventure. Now beta, it is very very clear after reading the first option that yes, we talk about the English language fiction. और उसमें हमने देखा था दैट इट वाज फोकस मोर ऑन द वेस्ट and there they talked about the whiteness. Okay, so I think this is something which is actually given in the paragraph. And if I talk about the claim, so this claim was given in the paragraph, and if I assume this statement as true, so it is not weakening, it is actually supporting. So in a way I got my answer because this is an except one and I have to go for that particular choice which actually supports the claim. So yes, I have got my answer and answer is 1. So 2, 3 and 4 are actually weakening it. If they are weakening it, then obviously my answer is right, which is 1. The depiction of Africa in most Indian Ocean novels is driven by an Orientalist imagination of its cultural crudeness. अब बेटा सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट बात है ओरिएंटलिस्ट. ओरिएंटलिस्ट का मतलब बेसिकली होता है कॉलोनाइजेशन. एंड कॉलोनाइजेशन वाज नॉट एट ऑल रिलेटेड टू इंडियन ओशन नॉवेल्स. तो अगर मैं इसको राइट मान लेती हूँ, इफ इट इज ट्रू, then actually it is weakening the passage claim because of the word Orientalist imagination. Okay, so this is going to be wrong. It means it is weakening. I have to go for strengthening one, and already I've got my answer. Very few mainstream English language. Now what do you understand by very few? Very few always means negligible. But यहाँ पर हम ये नहीं बोल सकते अगर English language mainstream था, then I cannot write the word very few. Okay, have historically been set in American and European metropolitan centers just because of this word very few. And here I can also say that it is an extreme word even. क्योंकि very few का मतलब क्या हो गया? Negligible. Okay, so this cannot be the this cannot be the answer because it is weakening and we have to go for the strengthening. The last, the depiction of Africa in most Indian Ocean novels is driven by a post-colonial nostalgia. Again, post-colonial nostalgia, which is not at all related to Indian Ocean. So again, it is weakening the passage claim. So again, this is going to be wrong and the except will be 1. Okay. Okay, so we are done with CAT 23 slot 1 PYQ series, and if you have any doubt, you can always visit our website and give us a call on the number displayed on the screen. If you are liking our video, then please do like, share, comment and subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for some more videos. Thank you so much.